Once a bustling town, Ravenwood had slowly been declining over the years, with abandoned buildings and empty streets becoming more and more common. One of the few remaining landmarks of the town was the old courthouse, which had been standing for over a century. It was a grand building made of stone and towering over the surrounding houses. The courthouse had been closed for years, but one day, a wealthy businessman named Samuel decided to buy it and turn it into a museum. He had a passion for history and loved the idea of preserving the town's past. After a year of renovations, the courthouse was ready to be opened to the public. On the day of the opening, the town's residents flocked to the courthouse to see the new museum. The grand entrance hall was filled with ancient artifacts and relics from the town's past. But the real attraction was a statue that had been found in the basement during the renovations. The statue was of a woman, with her eyes closed and her head tilted to the side as if she was listening to something. The statue was incredibly lifelike, and visitors couldn't help but feel that she was watching them as they walked by. They also noticed that there seemed to be a whispering sound coming from the statue, although they couldn't quite make out what it was saying. People came from all over to see the artifacts and the mysterious statue. But as the months went on, strange things began to happen in Ravenwood. People reported hearing strange whispers in their homes and feeling as though they were being watched. Some claimed to have seen the statue move on its own, and others said that they had seen the woman's eyes open and follow them as they walked by. This snippet was generated in Yandex Cloud. The townspeople began to suspect that something was wrong with the statue, and they begged Samuel to remove it from the museum. But he refused, insisting that it was just their imagination and that the statue was perfectly harmless. One night, a group of teenagers snuck into the museum to see the statue for themselves. As they approached the statue, they heard the whispers grow louder and more insistent. Suddenly, the woman's eyes snapped open and she began to move. The teenagers screamed and ran out of the museum, but the statue followed them, whispering in their ears as they fled. From that night on, the whispers grew louder and more frequent. People began to avoid the courthouse and the statue, and Ravenwood fell into an even deeper decline. Samuel, the museum owner, became a recluse and was rarely seen in public. Eventually, the statue disappeared, and no one knows what became of it. Years later, a new owner purchased the courthouse and turned it into a hotel. The grand entrance hall was still there, and people still came to see the relics from the past. But there was one thing missing: the statue. However, on quiet nights, some guests swear they can hear a woman whispering in their ear, and they know that the statue is still out there somewhere waiting to be found.